Ever wondered what it was like to be suspended beneath a massive B-17 bomber, thousands of feet in the air, inside a tiny metal sphere? Today, we're re-diving deep into one of the most iconic and feared positions in aerial warfare history, the Sperry Ball turret. Picture this: you're in a B-17 flying fortress, and your job is to defend against enemy fighters swarming from below. Your station? A cramped spherical gun position bolted to the belly of the aircraft. This was the reality for the ball turret gunner. Unlike the retractable turrets on bombers like the B-24, the B-17's A2 model was a permanent fixture. It was 44 inches in diameter, weighed a hefty 850 pounds, and once you were in, there was no getting out quickly. The structure itself was a marvel of engineering, designed for both defense and destruction. It had a plexiglass dome for visibility, a curved steel front, a cast aluminum entry door, and a thick, armored steel rear section that doubled as the gunner's backrest. This entire sphere was connected to the fuselage by a trunnion ring and a slip ring assembly. This clever setup allowed the turret to rotate 360 degrees and tilt up and down without tangling the power cables that fed it electricity. Now, safety procedures were strict, and for good reason. Gunners were absolutely forbidden from being inside the turret during takeoff or landing. Why? Because the turret hung so low, it could easily strike the runway. Before landing, the guns had to be pointed straight down, or rather elevated to a maximum of 85 degrees relative to the gunner, locked in place to ensure enough ground clearance. Getting into this thing was a procedure in itself. It usually happened once the bomber reached a cruising altitude of around 9,000 or 10,000 feet. The gunner would first have to manually rotate the turret so the guns were pointing straight down. This brought the entry door, which was on the back of the turret, up into the fuselage. The gunner would open the small round door and contort their body to lower themselves inside. When I say contort, I mean it. The position was incredibly cramped. The gunner would essentially be in a fetal position, curled up with their knees pulled tight to their chest. Their feet would be placed on metal rests on either side of the main siding window, and their head would rest against the armored padding of the now closed door. It was a space so tight there was no room for a parachute. If the crew had to bail out, the gunner first had to get out of the turret, find their parachute pack inside the fuselage, and then jump. Once inside, the pre-combat checklist began. First, lock the door. Then, switch on the turret's power, activate the complex gun sight, and plug in the electrically heated suit. This wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. The turret was neither pressurized nor insulated. At high altitudes, temperatures could plummet to a bone-chilling -50 degrees Fahrenheit. Without the heated suit, fleece-lined boots, and thick gloves, frostbite would be a near certainty. Finally, the gunner would connect their oxygen hose. The turret had its own independent oxygen system, but it only held about a 2-hour supply, a critical detail to manage on long missions. Controlling the turret was surprisingly intuitive, using a single hand grip controller. Pushing it forward or pulling it back would elevate or depress the guns. Pushing it left or right would traverse the turret. The genius of the system was that the speed of the movement was proportional to the force the gunner applied. A gentle push meant a slow, precise adjustment. A hard shove would swing the turret rapidly to track a fast-moving target. Of course, you wouldn't want to accidentally shoot your own plane. To prevent this, a clever mechanical safety was built in. A cam on the turret's mounting ring would automatically interrupt the gun's firing circuit whenever the barrels were pointed towards the B-17's own propellers or tail. However, this safety didn't account for everything. It wouldn't stop the gunner from firing into the open bomb bay doors, a mistake that could have catastrophic consequences. Life in the turret was raw and unfiltered. There were no sanitary facilities. On missions that could last 8 hours or more, gunners had to get creative, often using empty ammunition boxes or other makeshift solutions. Despite the discomfort and the seemingly exposed position, the ball turret was surprisingly well protected. The gunner was shielded by thick armor plating on the seat, back, and door, and the main gun sight was made of double-layered tempered glass. This armor could effectively stop .30 caliber rounds and most anti-aircraft shrapnel. The statistics from the war might surprise you. Despite its reputation as the death trap, the ball turret position actually had the lowest injury rate among all crew positions on bombers that returned to base at just 6%. The real danger was being trapped if the plane was going down. And what about the firepower? The turret was armed with two 50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns, each capable of firing at a rate of 750 rounds per minute. Initially, gunners used tracer rounds to help aim, but this practice was largely discontinued. The bright glare of the tracers at high altitude actually impaired the gunner's vision, and it was discovered could slightly throw off the bullet's trajectory, reducing accuracy. The true secret weapon of the ball turret was its advanced gun sight, the Sperry K4. This was no simple crosshair. It was a sophisticated mechanical computer. Before engaging a target, the gunner would dial in the target's estimated wingspan and range. The gun sight would then automatically calculate for everything: gravity's effect on the bullet, wind speed, the B-17's own flight path, the speed of the enemy fighter, and even the rotational speed of the turret itself. It would then adjust the aiming reticle, showing the gunner not where the target was, but where they needed to aim to actually hit it. It was a revolutionary piece of technology that gave gunners a fighting chance against nimble, fast-moving fighters. In an emergency, like a wheels-up belly landing, the entire turret could be jettisoned. This was a complex procedure that took about 20 minutes and involved disconnecting the power, ammo feeds, and finally releasing the mounting bolts. Dropping the turret would prevent it from digging into the ground and causing the fuselage to break apart on impact. The Sperry ball turret was a product of its time, technically complex, and incredibly expensive. In today's money, a single turret would cost over $250,000, but its time was short. After World War II, the advent of remote-controlled gun systems, high-speed jet aircraft, and guided missiles quickly made manually operated turrets like this one obsolete. Yet, the legacy of the ball turret and the brave men who operated them endures. It stands as a symbol of the ingenuity, the sacrifice, and the sheer grit of a generation that fought in the skies. It was a tiny, isolated world of its own, a cramped bubble of life and death hanging beneath the wings of a legend.
Thanks for watching. If you found this deep dive interesting, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video.
Die.
See you next time.